Today I will be working on Son of Man. First, I want to lay down the center of the page, make sure I'm centered, and then using whatever's available like a dish to lay down the circle just to make sure I'm centered on the spot. I wanted to add a triangle to the circle, so I went ahead and measured that out as well. Then take whatever tools are available to you. I really like this image of David, King David, so I wanted to use him within my artwork. So I wanted to trace over him to add him to the spaces I wanted on the sheet. So here I'm tracing just general outlines like famous tattoo artists usually do. Here we're removing any lines I don't want overlapping our main character. And I add another circle with whatever's laying around, which just so happened to fit perfectly within the triangle. Here we're going to start picking out the colors. The color spectrum basically is a low pasty color, so I wanted to go ahead and lay those out and get those ready. So let's get started. We always start using the lighter colors first and then work our way down to the darker colors. So here we're using whites and cream colors, tannish, really light tans, to start getting the colors I want within the actual like skin tones. So we're working on the face, the chest, the arms, and the legs. And as we get darker, we could start getting into the beard as well and the hair. Something I really like about coloring pencils is that one pencil is basically a shade or a variant of other shadings within the coloring pencil, depending on how hard you push on the pencil. So the harder you push, the darker the color is, and the lighter you stroke over with the pencil, the lighter the color is going to be. So one coloring pencil can be several colors as well. Here we're getting the general shading of the leg, where the darker colors are going to be. Contortions of the muscles or the knee, the other leg that I didn't trace. Here we start working on the beard because we have the darker colors, the eyes. So here we're working into darker colors. Now working on the contortions of the arms, the hands. Adding in the shading, trying to add those details of him reaching out with his fingertips. And down to the leg. Most of it's just repetitive, It's just going over certain areas with darker colors as you kind of like rinse and repeat down. As you go, you're kind of going back to the reference and basically seeing what colors go where. So what are your lightest colors within the beard? Which ones are the darkest? What are your lightest colors within your skin? And which are your darkest colors within the skin? Then you kind of work your way down out of that color scale. Black's usually a great way to get shading in it, especially if you're using lighter shadings. Now we start with the other kind of more orangish, pasty-ish colors to work on his garments. Going from creams to oranges to a little bit of reds, and then some blacks later. Basically taking in mind always the reference of what I'm seeing, where the shading's at, where it gets darker within the other picture, where I set down the lines. Same goes for the hat. We'll work, as I mentioned, from our light colors to our darker colors. Here we start coloring the sky in the back. And it's the same process, basically using the lightest blues you have to go over the areas where the sky is noticeable. Make sure you're always checking your lines, where the lines are, where the difference in colors are, and try basically reflecting it on your page. And then you'll work your way until you think you've reached the darkest blue and it kind of compares to your reference. So here we're working in details for the home or the temple or little towers in the city. We're just adding as much details as we can. Concept goes here, lighter to darker, until you think you've reached somewhat of the same color. or at least to what you want, you think you like. Down here to start coloring the people, kind of outlining them out. Adding in a little bit of the shading. These didn't trace, so I kind of draw them out by hand. In the back, that's kind of like a bunch of jumbled mess that basically art could be interpreted in many ways, so just start adding in the coloring. And we go from lights to darks. Next, let's move to the bottom side. So there's a lot of bricks I still have to lay down in here, so I kind of have to add them in by hand. A lot of feet, a lot of dress work. So now we start working, as mentioned, on the legs and the dress work. Start laying down the bricks. After work, lay down a very light tan for like a sandish color, and start laying down the shadows in the back as well. Laying down the shadows within the cracks, the edges of the bricks. The blackness will signify basically the darkness of space. Went ahead and colored in the triangle as well, adding in like a goldish vibe to the triangles, making the edges darker than the center. Hardening my lines with the black coloring pencil as well. Here we draw a sideways infinity sign. A circle. And the other one's going to be a trident. So the infinity is the infinite, all mine. The circle is also another representation of the infinite, while trident kind of symbolizes the moving waters. So now we're going to start choosing out our colors for the background, and I kind of chose as a reference a galaxy. So I like the galaxy colors, so I chose out the colors I wanted to reflect what I saw. So let's begin. I wanted to go ahead and lay down some lines on the triangle, so it's not just not a regular 2D triangle, but make it into more of a, give it like a popish vibe, like a tetrahedron. This way it kind of looks like it's at the point of the black sphere behind the main character. And here we're just basically putting down a light blue background. I wanted to kind of get that feeling that I see in a galaxy, and then spiraling around at different points with lighter pink. So as soon as I get where I want all the arms of the spirals to be, I start going around the pink and laying down darker colors. So as we go, you'll see me get into darker pinks and move into like purples, just following like the strands of the galaxy, the arms, leaving gaps to kind of symbolize or kind of represent the stars in the galaxy. Start seeing the difference between the pinks as the streak starts getting darker. Every layer kind of adds a more depth effect to the actual spiral arms themselves. While doing this, I usually have the variations of pinks and purples offside, kind of ordered from lightest to darkest. So I go through each coloring pencil until I reach the darkest color. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time and patience. Now we're getting into the blues. The lighter blues go down first, and then we start adding in darker blues as we go. So at this point I've already got the colors laid down to the right, and I'm going from lightest to darkest. Just making sure to leave some streaks open, as I mentioned, to represent where the spaces would be, where the stars would be shining. Just making sure to go around the planet areas. It's just a lot of repetitive work sometimes, depending on the piece of art that you're working on. And the way colors mix also depends on what you're using. If you're using a like Sharpies, if you're using markers, basically. Coloring pencils, other variations of stencils, paints, for example, as well. They mix differently depending on acrylics and oil bases as well. We start reaching the darker colors, we start shading in the areas that we want to kind of give depth to, because this reference is mainly used to kind of represent a portal our figure is walking into, at the same time kind of representing a galaxy. So it's kind of like a mix of various things. Now we're starting off with the planets. Of course, we've got Venus. And then we've got Mercury as well. We've got Saturn. We've got Earth. We've got Uranus. we've got Neptune. And thank you once again for watching, and like, share, and enjoy.